Happy meeting you all, my dear students. There was a very good response from you all for the submission of notebooks for the corrections. I would like to inform you some corrections which you have to rectify while submitting the books in the next time. First thing, index in the workbook. Many of you didn't draw the lines. I have mentioned clearly in your workbook. And index in the homework. Index in the homework. Many of you have started with the second homework notebook. But homework index you didn't write. So in the second book also you are supposed to maintain homework index. And secondly, whenever you are writing the homework and workbook, write the date on which the homework and workbook given. In workbook, in the right hand side, next to the chapter heading, write the date. Understood? Children, in today's class, we'll start a new branch of social science, that is business studies. In today's class, we'll discuss about components of business studies. Okay? Let's learn meaning of the term business, what are economic activities, types of economic activities, exchange. So these are the 4 topics which we are going to learn in today's class. Children, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, in this chapter, 2 topics had been deleted. That is the role of trade and commerce in the economic development. And the next one, development of commerce during 21st century. So these 2 topics I won't be taking in the class. In today's class, we'll be learning about meaning of the term business, what are economic activities, types of economic activities and exchange. In textbooks, you have to refer 249 page number. That is 249 page number you can take. While I'm taking the video class, take your textbook and take running notes compulsorily. Now let's see what is the meaning of business or the term business. The simple meaning of business is state of being busy in any work. The term business is derived from the word busy. Thus, business means being busy. According to Oxford Dictionary, the meaning of business is one's regular occupation, profession, a task or duty. For example, what's your business? A matter, buying and selling. It can be a matter which is related to buying and selling or a commercial firm or organization. So now we understood what is business. The term business means the state of being busy in any work. So in simple terms, we can say business means being busy. All of us need food, clothing and shelter. We also have many other household requirements to be satisfied in our daily life. We meet many of these requirements from the shopkeeper. So in the retail shop or is in the wholesale shop, we used to get the required items. The shopkeeper gets from wholesaler and the wholesaler gets from manufacturers. The shopkeeper, the wholesaler, the manufacturer are doing business and therefore they are called businessman. So now did you understand what are called, who are called businessman? What is business, did you understand? The shopkeeper, the wholesaler, the manufacturer who are doing the business are called businessmen. The shopkeeper, the wholesaler, as we have seen, as they are doing the business, we are calling them as businessman. And business is an economic activity which is related with continuous and regular production and distribution of goods and services for satisfying human wants. So as to satisfy the human wants, the business, which is an economic activity which is related to a continuous and regular production and distribution of goods and services. So for what reason this business is functioning? So as to satisfy human wants. Now let's learn about economic activities. What are economic activities? The economic activities are the set of activities carried out by human beings to satisfy their needs. The economic activities produce goods and give services that people need or wish. Hence, the economic activities have three factors mainly. It is production, distribution and consumption. As we have already discussed, to satisfy our wants, we need goods and services. Goods are produced by agriculture and industry. And apart from the goods, we require many services. For example, teaching and even service from the hospitals, lawyers. All these services also required by the human beings. These goods and services ought to be distributed among us. If you see these goods and services, so in production place, maybe in the manufacturing place, it has been produced. And in particular places, the services are provided. It has to be distributed among all the human beings. The activities which are concerned with production and exchange of goods and services are called economic activities. Now, did you understand what are called economic activities? The activities which are concerned with the production and exchange of goods and services are called economic activities. And there are three types of economic activities. There are three basic types of economic activities, that is business, profession and employment. If you see business, it is mainly concerned with the production and exchange of goods and services. So as to satisfy the needs of the people. And moreover, the business is intended to earn profit. They are not only concerned about the production and exchange of goods and services, and they are satisfying the needs of the people, and by that they are earning profit. For doing business, no minimum qualification is required. So those whoever wants to do the business, they can do. So there is no minimum qualification required. Businessmen gets profit in return. As they are doing the business, what they are getting in return? They are getting the profits. Business requires capital investment. What do we need? The capital. So as to start the business, we need some capital investment. And if you see here, the risk involved here is high. Because as a businessman, as he put his capital investment, he has put the investment as a capital, he has to earn the profit. So the risk factor is high in the business. Next, the second type of economic activity is profession. Profession is mainly concerned with rendering of specialized technical and personal services. For example, lawyers, doctors, chartered accountant, etc. If you see in profession which requires a special skill and knowledge so as to perform that field activities. That is, to be a lawyer or a doctor or a chartered accountant, a person needs a special skill and knowledge so as to perform that field activities. Training is required in it, and professionals get professional fees so as to give their services, they are getting professional fees. And here if you see, unlike business, here limited capital investment is required to set up profession. Unlike business, here little bit risky. The fee whichever they are collecting depends on the situation, and sometimes it is certain and sometimes it is irregular. So here the capital investment is low, and comparatively, while comparing business, there are little bit risk in this economic activity. So this is about profession. And next is employment. What do you mean by employment? It is a work undertaken by the people under an employer for salary or wages. So what do you mean by employment? It is a work undertaken by the people under an employer for salary or wages. For example, agricultural laborers or industrial laborers. And people work for others and get remuneration in exchange. So in the employment, people used to work for others and get remuneration in exchange. Here, the employee need not do any investment. The capital investment, there is no capital investment by the employee, and there is no risk taken by the employee, and he gets regular salary as he was employed by an employer. That is, he is working under some employer, and employee is getting the regular salary, and he need not put any capital investment. He did not put any capital investment. So these are the three types of economic activities. First one is business, second profession, and third employment. Now let's see the term employment, employer, and employee. Let's see the meaning of these three terms. What do you mean by employment? Employment is an agreement between an employer and an employee that the employee will provide certain services to the employer. In return, the employee is paid a salary or hourly wage. For the daily wage or the hourly wage also they used to pay. Although employees can negotiate certain items in an employment agreement, the terms and conditions are primarily determined by the employer. The employer is the one who determines the terms and conditions which is applicable to the employees. And both parties may also terminate the agreement. So if the employee doesn't want to work under an employer, he can quit that job, or else he can terminate the agreement which has been made between the employer and employee. The same way, if employer is not satisfied with the employee, he can terminate the agreement. An employment agreement for an individual employee can be a verbal exchange, return email, or job offer letter. So if you see what is the employment agreement, sometimes it can be a verbal exchange. For example, if you see the housemaid who is working in the houses, it's a verbal exchange. There is no return letter. And if you go for some companies, you have to go for a written email. Written email which has been sent has been taken as an agreement, or job offer letter which is offered by the employer. The offer of employment can be implied in an interview or written in a formal official employment contract. The offer of employment can be implied in an interview or written in a formal official employment contract. Now let's see what do you mean by employer? An employer is a person, company, or organization that employs people and pays them for their work. The people who are paid to work are called employees. Employers provide employment. So employer can be a person or a company or an organization which employs the people and pays them for their work. And the people who are paid to work are called employees. Employers provide employment. An employer is a person who appoints the people to do work under him. Whereas the people who are appointed to do the work are called employees. An employer is also called the owner and the employee is also called the worker. So what do you mean by employer? Is a person who appoints people to do work under him. Whereas employees means the people who are appointed to do the work are called employees. And sometimes we used to call employer as what? Owner, and the employee as worker. Now let's learn about exchange. The distribution of goods and services is called exchange. If you see, the manufacturing companies are producing the product. But who has to take that product? Who is using that product? Consumers. So for the consumption process, the exchange is a process which is connecting the link between production and consumption. So what do you mean by exchange? The distribution of goods and services is called exchange. And the exchange is a process which connects the link between production and consumption. The goods are produced at a place which has to reach consumers at different places. So consumers are spread over different places, but the goods are produced at one place. So during the course of production, the producers take into consideration. If you see, while producing a product, the producers, what they have to consider? They have to study about the market study. What is the market? Whether this product can be launched, whether this product can be sold. Those things they have to study. And even transportation mode, the mode of transportation, whether it can be transported through trucks or is even by public transportation, whether it can be transported to one place to another through maybe railways or is even in the flight. Some products has to be transported through flights. And the storage of, next one is storage of goods. So some goods we cannot preserve as it is in the room temperature. It should be below the room temperature. So storage of goods, how it has to be stored, whether in the warehouse or else it should be under the temperature, whether it should be in the room temperature, whether it should be below the room temperature. All these things they have to take into consideration. And determine advertisement. So what sort of advertisement has to be given to the product to get sold? Whether it is through newspaper or else TV, television by broadcasting or even in the FM radios. Now you can see the advertisements, many advertisements are going even in the FM radio, whether it is through radio or else which sort of media is feasible for the advertisement for that particular product. And later they'll be determining about the price of the product. So the production process has to go accordingly. So while the producer making a product or producing the product, he has to consider the market, transportation, storage of goods, advertisement, and he has to determine the price. All these aspects are included in the process of exchange. So as we have seen, the distribution of goods and services is called exchange. Not only that, there are many aspects which are included in the process of exchange. So if you see, the goods has to be distributed to consumers at different places. And not only that, the producer has to think about in the exchange process, he has to think about the market and what sort of a transportation is needed and how it has to be stored and what sort of advertisement required. And he has to determine even the price of the product. So all these aspects are included in the process of exchange. Now, let's learn about the term production and consumption. Already we have discussed about this in economic activities. In the lesson Introduction to Economics, we have learned. So once again, we'll learn about production and consumption. So production is a process of transforming or converting inputs or the raw materials into outputs or finished goods. So production means the creation of goods and services, which is to satisfy human wants. So the production process is the process of transforming inputs into outputs and to satisfy human wants. The primary function of the economy is to provide goods and services for satisfying wants of the people. So what is the primary function of the economy? Is to provide goods and services to satisfy the wants of the people. The act of satisfying wants by the use of goods and services is called consumption. So what do you mean by consumption? The act of satisfying wants by the use of goods and services is called consumption. In other words, we can say what is consumption. So consumption is the art of using services and goods. So what do you mean by consumption? Consumption is the art of using services and goods. And consumer. Who is a consumer? Consumer is a person who buys goods or uses services for their consumption, for his or her consumption. So now did you understand three terms? Production, consumption and consumer. So production means the process of transforming inputs into outputs. And consumption means the art of using services and goods, or the act of satisfying wants by the use of goods and services is called consumption. And consumer. Who is a consumer? Consumer is a person who buys goods or uses the services for their consumption. Children, in today's class, we have learnt about meaning of the term business, economic activities, types of economic activities, exchange, and terms production, consumption and consumer. In next class, we'll learn about evolution and growth of commerce and the important stages of commerce. Now, let's see about the home assignment. I've given you few terms to define. That is, the first one is business. What do you mean by business? The term business is derived from the word busy. Business means being busy. Second one, economic activities. The answer is the activities which are concerned with the production and exchange of goods and services are called economic activities. Third question, employer. You have to define employer. Employer is a person who appoints people to do work under him. So the answer is employer is a person who appoints people to do work under him. Next it is employee. The people who are appointed to do work are called employees. The people who are appointed to do work are called employees. Next, exchange. The answer is the distribution of goods and services is called exchange. Next one, consumption. Consumption means the art of using services and goods. What is consumption? Consumption is the art of using services and goods. Next, the last one, consumer. Consumer is a person who buys goods or uses services for their consumption. So these are the answers you have to write in your homework. So I have given you 7 define the following that you have to write in your homework neatly and promptly. As I have told you, write today's date and write these answers and send the pic to me tomorrow. I already given you the answers. I have told you the answers. The same thing, listen and write in your homework notebook. And next is about home workbook assignment. Next is about workbook assignment. As I have mentioned you in the workbook assignment, next to the chapter name in the right hand side, write today's date. So today is the first day when we are starting that particular date. You have to mention next to the chapter name, and the same date you are supposed to mention even in the index page. I told you to draw the lines. I've informed you to draw the lines. So you have to write in the left hand side date. In that place you have to write today's date, that is 1/12. Workbook assignment. In page number 165, second main answer the following questions. You have to write question number 1. And in page number 166, third main answer the following in paragraph. There you have to write question number 1 and 2. Write neatly all these question answers. And when I'm telling you, you can pause the workbook assignment. But homework assignment you have to post tomorrow. Thank you children. Let's see in the next class.